public service, we present to you 7 elements that social scientists say can lead to indoctrination into a cult. Number 1, you are going through a transition, perhaps a difficult one.
When you're in that vulnerable state, you're going to be more open to trying something. Maybe,
refer to it as a cult due to the indoctrination and abuse that will be discussed further. The beginning of the cult as being an overwhelmingly spiritual and inviting environment about love and living well.
This was not my path. I got accepted into grad school. I was going to get a PhD in child psychology. I had my whole life planned out. And then I met some of these people. They were so alive, moving from their heart and playing and jumping in ice-cold rivers and hiking through the forest at night. And oh my God, I want me some of that.
Some of them were some of the smartest, most beautiful people I've ever met in my life.
We started it. This is what we wanted. It was our little utopia in the middle of this big giant city.
Constantly you were being fed, like your soul was being fed with love and with inspiration and awe.
I wanted everybody in the world to experience this.
I can remember feeling so fulfilled. I said, Dad, I want to give my life to God.
It's a wave of love and connectedness.
Which is all part of the soft set.
Once you take that first step and go to that first meeting or talk or meditation group or Bible study, recruiters can work on you and invite you back, and it basically is a process from there.
We'd encourage them to go to this retreat center in the woods, where we can further indoctrinate them.
This is the first step toward the creation of a new reality.
We were kept in this closed environment, no outside books, no TV, no movies, to protect us from what my parents would say is the defilement of the world.
Over time, you're going to become more and more enveloped in this, what I call a self-sealing system.
Until your most important relationship is with the dear leader.
They say their cause is compassion for animals.
What's going on in there is an injustice.
Concern about animal welfare and a desire for a healthy lifestyle has seen a huge jump in the number of us going vegan.
That has found the answer, and you have this leader who is the only leader, who is the only one who can take you on this path, and everything else and everybody else is wrong.
Which the leader will often solidify by creating an external enemy.
And the UK has one of the highest animal welfare standards in the world, with the Animal Welfare Act making it an offence to cause unnecessary suffering to any animal. Yet farmers tell us they're being subjected to intolerable abuse.
I don't take any issue with vegans, but what we do care about is when it turns militant.
Do you think the industry feels under threat by this?
People are feeling very threatened, but when you get people storming the mart or spraying graffiti like has been happening, that's when individuals feel threatened, and that's really when it's not okay. When you've got people wondering, oh God, I hope my cows are going to be safe tonight.
He said all these horrible things about what would happen to me if I left because the world was such an evil place.
This means that you're going to psychologically run to the cult leader.
You become in a perpetual state of denial of your own reasoning power. You don't reason anymore.
People in this state of cognitive dissonance, they're going to choose over and over and over for the cult or the cult.
Which brings us to the key way cult leaders scale up their control. Simple peer pressure. This fundamental human desire to be a part of a group can override even our own perception of reality. In 1951, social psychologist Solomon Asch demonstrated this by placing several students in a room. All but one were in on the experiment.
Your task is a very simple one. You're to look at the line on the left and determine which of the 3 lines on the right is equal to it in length.
2. 2. 2. 2.
75% of those tested would end up agreeing with the majority, even when their responses were obviously false. It's this pressure to conform that the cult leader uses to control members.
Never stop fighting. We will never stop fighting for this planet and for ourselves, our futures, and for the futures of our children and grandchildren.
Managed to have your family stop eating meat, for example. How did you do that, and what did it take to convince them?
Not quite much. They always had excuses, but then I made them feel so guilty.
You made them feel guilty?
Yeah, I told
bad news for your parents.
Yeah, I just kept telling them that they were stealing our future and that you cannot stand up for human rights while you are living that lifestyle. And then they decided to do those changes because I have made them feel very guilty.
Now all of them are vegan. Nobody knows. No, they're not.
My dad, but my mom, she tries.
She tries to.
She's like 90% vegan, and then she eats some others. She's like a trash can. She eats things that was supposed to be thrown out. But they try.
All to serve the whims of a likely sociopathic narcissist.
He says, you couldn't live without me, so since I'm dying, you're gonna die too. To panic, unless you have to, is a terrible idea. But when your house is on fire, and you want to keep your house from burning to the ground, then that does require some level of panic. Our civilization is so fragile, it is almost like a castle built in the sand. The facade is so beautiful, but the foundations are far from solid. But I fear they are not. Around the year 2030, 10 years, 259 days, and 10 hours away from now, we will be in a position where we set off an irreversible chain reaction that will most likely lead to the end of our civilization as we know it.
Starting to become a bit of a problem now when people are getting phones and cameras shoved in their faces, getting interrogated about it when they're just the bloke that drove them there.
How do you feel when you get called a murderer or that you're inhumane to your animals?
Well, I find it degrading, I find it insulting, and I frankly find it barbaric that somebody would accuse the people that make a living off of working the land of mistreating their livestock. When you're being called murderers and rapists, that's overstepping the mark there. I mean, for fairly obvious reasons. But then, of course, you do get death threats, which is quite ironic coming from people that want peace for animals and everything, but then they tell you that, you know, oh, I hope you and your family go and die in a hole for what you do.
10 ways vegans are ruining the world. That eating lettuce is over 3 times worse in terms of greenhouse gas emissions than eating bacon. This is because lettuce has so few calories, around 15 calories a leaf. So someone would need to eat 2 whole iceberg lettuces to even get close to the equivalent calorie intake of 2 rashers of smoked bacon, around 200 calories. The leafy vegetable is also far more likely to perish before it reaches the dinner table, with the food waste further increasing its emissions footprint. So this means you can swap the salad for a bacon baguette and feel less guilty. The soybean is the symbol of the vegan lifestyle, and has been marketed for decades as the perfect health food. But this little legume has a dark side. Soybeans naturally contain anti-nutrients such as phytoestrogens. Fermentation normally destroys phytoestrogens, which allows your body to enjoy soy's nutritional benefits. But the problem is, most Westerners consume unfermented soy rather than fermented soy, mostly in the form of soy milk, tofu, and soy infant formula. So people are consuming soy with high levels of anti-nutrients, and this can have very harmful consequences. For instance, phytoestrogens can mimic estrogen in the body, causing a chain reaction of hormone imbalances in males and females. But what happens when things get out of balance? Well, too much soy in a man's diet has been linked to gynecomastia, male breast enlargement, and has been known to cause a loss of sexual desire. For women, studies on young female rats suggest that soy is a contributing factor in premature menstruation, while for both men and women, soy may cause infertility. Soy, you should probably cut it out of your diet. You want to think twice before you pour it on your cereal. On average, it takes around 5 litres of water to grow one almond, and thanks to the huge profits they bring in, almond orchards continue to be planted. California produces 82% of the world's almonds, and this all-year-round crop guzzles close to 10% of the area's agricultural water supply. But as the state suffers from annual droughts, the finger of blame is being pointed at the almond. The drought killed around 62 million trees in 2016 alone, and yet the demand for almond milk is still on the rise around the globe. If you're having brunch, think twice before ordering avocado toast. Not because you should be saving the money for a mortgage, but because there's a dark story lurking beneath the surface of the green fleshy fruit. In Mexico, where they're colloquially referred to as green gold, avocados can get you killed. Production of the crop that earned Mexico more than $1.5 billion in exports in 2016 is concentrated in the state of Michoacan, and much of it is controlled by a drug cartel known as the Caballeros Templarios, or the Knights Templar. For decades, rich drug traffickers have purchased avocado plantations to launder money or make legitimate profits. But it wasn't until several years ago, however, that the Templarios became further involved in the avocado business. They've infiltrated the avocado sector by making farmers and landowners give up a percentage of their income, taxing all fruit sold and land owned, and even murdering those who refuse to play by the rules. And this has resulted in the term blood guacamole. Number 6. Cancer and heart disease. Consuming a plant-based diet has been widely considered to be healthier than a traditional meat and 2-veg diet, as it has been shown to ward off chronic diseases. However, scientists in the US have turned this assumption on its head, claiming that a long-term vegetarian diet can alter human DNA, raising the risk of cancer and heart disease. They found that populations who have had a primarily vegetarian diet for generations were far more likely to carry DNA, which makes them susceptible to inflammation. The mutations occurred, according to scientists, to make it easier for vegetarians to absorb essential fatty acids from plants. However, this has the knock-on effect of boosting the production of arachidonic acid, which is linked to cancer. These days, spending on cancer medicine totals around $100 billion worldwide, with the cost expected to exceed $150 billion by 2020. But if veganism continues in popularity, it could cause these healthcare costs to increase further. Number 5. Nutrient deficiency. There are only some nutrients that humans can consume by eating plants, and others that they can only consume by eating animals. One vital nutrient that vegans can't get in a meat-free diet is vitamin B12, a water-soluble vitamin that is involved in the function of every cell in the body. It's particularly important in the formation of blood and the function of the brain. In fact, the problem is so bad that one study showed a whopping 92% of vegans are deficient in this critical nutrient. Those who don't supplement B12 are at risk for consequences as serious as blindness and brain abnormalities. More worryingly though, B12 is just one vitamin vegans aren't getting enough of. According to Dr. Frankie Phillips, a registered dietitian with the British Dietetic Association, vegans are less strong than meat eaters as they have weaker muscles due to a lower intake of amino acids which generate muscle mass. Number 4. Mental health. In 2014, a controversial study by the Medical University of Graz concluded that those who adopt a vegan or vegetarian diet were ill more often, more susceptible to physical and mental disorders, and generally had a lower quality of life than people who eat meat. The researchers in Austria interviewed around 1,300 people split into different diet groups. Accounting for smoking and physical exercise, they concluded that the big difference in susceptibility to disease was diet. According to their research, vegetarians and vegans were hit harder by 14 of the 18 illnesses monitored in the study, which included diabetes, migraines, and osteoporosis. They were also twice as likely to suffer from anxiety or depression. A similar study from the University of Hildesheim found that vegetarians suffered more from depression, anxiety, and eating disorder. Starving South America. For those of you who've ever tried a vegan clean eating diet, you've probably consumed a whole lot of quinoa. But it turns out that this low-fat, high-protein superfood isn't quite as innocent as it might seem. Not long ago, quinoa was just an obscure Peruvian grain that you could only buy in whole food shops. But these days, opting for a quinoa salad has detrimental effects in the fields of Peru and Bolivia where the grain is farmed. You see, it's supposed to be a cash crop, but the hike in prices due to its increasing popularity in the Western world pushed the very people that farm quinoa out of their own marketplace. Between 2000 and its peak in 2014, the average price of quinoa exports from Peru and Bolivia more than tripled to between $6 and $7 a kilogram. And now people who have eaten quinoa for the best part of 7 centuries are finding that imported junk food is cheaper to eat. Number 2. Children's health. In the last 10 years, the number of vegans in the UK has risen by a whopping 360%. With 42% of those vegans being between the ages of 15 and 34, the forward-thinking youth of today might be inclined to rear a generation of plant-based babies. But is a vegan diet good for children? Well, nutritionists have warned that infants who follow the diet are often leaner and smaller than those who eat meat. Professor Mary Futrell of University College London said this is often the result of a lack of nutrients such as vitamin B12, calcium, zinc, and high-quality protein. She further warned that this type of diet could lead to irreversible cognitive damage, and in the worst cases, claimed it can even result in death. Number 1. Cashew burn. Cashews are the most eaten nut in the US and Europe, and are a popular staple in the vegan diet because they can be processed to make vegan cheese. Brimming with fibre, protein and unsaturated fat, nutritional studies have linked the nut to lower rates of heart disease and a longer life. However, in India, where more than 60% of the cashews are processed, it's another story entirely. The nuts are ridiculously hard to extract. A cashew has 2 layers of hard shell, between which are caustic substances, cardol and anacardic acid, which can cause serious burns. As a result, many workers in the cashew industry have permanent damage to their hands from this corrosive liquid. Because factories don't routinely provide gloves, they also only earn about $2 a day. But this is nothing compared to what's happening in Vietnam, the world's largest exporter of processed cashews. According to a 2011 Human Rights Watch report, drug addicts detained in former labor camps in Vietnam process cashews. Those who refuse to work are beaten with truncheons, given electric shocks, locked in isolation, and deprived of food and water.